When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Skims or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling and for shoppers buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. It's home of ShopPay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Allbirds uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/income.
Hey, everybody. You can help us make Chris DeMakes a podcast even better by telling us a little bit about yourself. Go to surveymonkey.com/r/JDZ3HL7 for a quick listener survey. It only takes a couple minutes and it helps support our team. To show our appreciation, we're giving away 2 $50 gift cards to lucky participants every single month. Head to, go ahead and grab a pen, surveymonkey.com/r/JDZ3HL7 now for your chance to win.
Come dancing, our boyfriends used to come and call. Why not come dancing? It's only natural.
Hey everybody, Chris DeMakes a podcast producer Chris Fafalius here with another Throwback Thursday episode. This week we're throwing it back to June of 2022 when Fee Waybill sat in to discuss the writing and recording of the hit 1983 single from the Tubes, She's a Beauty. The song hit number 10 on the Hot 100 on July 2nd, 1983. On these very same charts, Irene Cara's Flashdance, What a Feeling, was sitting at number 1, followed by Eddie Grant's Electric Avenue, Every Breath You Take from the Police, and Culture Club's Time. Sitting at number 7 on these charts was Too Shy from Kajagoogoo, which if you haven't heard our episode with Lamal discussing the writing of that one, go listen to it. It's a great episode. One spot above the Tubes was Michael Jackson with Wanna Be Startin' Something, and one spot below it was Come Dancing from the Kinks, which Less Than Jake actually recorded a cover of. Go check that out. July of 1983 is also when Metallica released their debut album, Kill 'Em All, and when SNL cast member Heidi Gardner was born. Interesting piece of information that I wonder if Heidi even knows. It was the day that she was born, July 27th, 1983, that Madonna released her debut self-titled album. This is the album with Holiday and Lucky Star and Borderline, all great songs. The number 1 movie at the box office in July of 1983 was Return of the Jedi, followed by Staying Alive, Trading Places, Jaws 3D, and Superman 3. Coming in 6th was Porky's 2, The Next Day. I can't even imagine watching that movie, let alone in a movie theater. 1983 was pretty weird. Well, I guess that's enough to get you in the right state of mind for this one. From June 6th, 2022, this is episode 106 of Chris DeMakes a Podcast. Fee Waybill discusses the Tubes, She's a Beauty.
Hey everybody, today's guest is Fee Waybill, lead vocalist and songwriter for the San Francisco, California rock band, The Tubes. Together we take a look back almost 40 years into the rearview mirror and break down the writing, recording, and inspiration behind their top 10 US hit, She's a Beauty, taken from their 1983 album, Outside Inside. Fee tells an amazing story of walking through the seedy underbelly of San Francisco known as the Tenderloin and how this inspired the lyrics to the song. Fee was equal in praising both Toto's Steve Lukather, who wrote and played guitar on the track, as well as producer David Foster, whom he credits with dialing in the arrangement and all the nuances of the song. What an interesting band and story. I told Fee that had my band existed back in the early 80s and we had ran into the Tubes, we would have been fast friends. Their shows were kitschy bursts of slapstick comedy, all thrown together on a shoestring budget, something I can completely relate to. Oh, and be careful what you preach. The Tubes always flew the flag of doing their songs in the original keys they were recorded in, something that Fee says has gotten a bit challenging as the years have wore on, but I'm happy to say they've never faltered on that promise. Very cool. For all this and a whole lot more, stay tuned.
Hey, hey, have you heard? Krista makes a podcast. Hey, hey, have you heard? Krista makes a podcast. Hey, hey, have you heard? Krista makes a podcast. Hey, hey, have you heard? Krista makes a podcast.
Fee, how are we today?
I'm good, Chris. How about yourself?
I'm fantastic. Where am I talking to you from?
I live in Los Angeles, in the hills of Los Angeles.
Very nice. Very nice.
Where do you live?
I live in the foothills of Knoxville, Tennessee.
Oh.
I'm in different hills over here than where you're at.
I'm down with Tennessee. That sounds good to me.
sounds like a lyric right there. Well, I'll tell you, Fee, man, I have went back and taken a crash course in the Tubes catalog. And you guys just have some gems of songs. This has been so cool for me leading up to talking to you. Your first record was released in 1975, the self-titled album, The Tubes, with the underground hit White Punks on Dope.
Right.
Hang myself when I get enough room. Can't clean up though I know I should. White punks on dope. White punks on dope. White punks on dope. White punks on dope.
4 more studio albums followed and a live album. The band released Outside Inside on April 4th, 1983, which contained the smash hit, a top 10 U.S. hit, She's a Beauty, they're going to be talking about today. And the album was the band's second release on Capitol Records, as you were previously on A&M. So can you take us back to 1982-83 when you wrote She's a Beauty?
I lived in San Francisco at the time. We started the band there. And I wrote the lyric first, most of the lyric first. I really didn't have the title first. But in San Francisco, there's kind of a red light district.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like kind of where the prostitutes are. And it's the seedy kind of part of town. And it's called the Tenderloin.
That's over by the Warfield.
Exactly. Down near the Warfield and Market Street, right?
That's a pretty crazy area to this day.
Yeah, it's getting more and more crazy. And so we were staying. So at the time, gosh, I don't even know why I was there. We used to play this club called Great American Music Hall,
of course,
which is right next door to a strip club. And I was walking around town. I don't know. We were playing the club, and it was lunchtime or we'd sound check or something like that. And this was, gosh, I can't remember what year it was. I think it was before we were on Capitol. I think when we were still on A&M, because I had the lyric for a long time. And I'm walking around the Tenderloin, right? And in between sound check or I don't know, they're setting up stuff, or I don't know, I don't remember. And they used to have these things, they don't have them anymore, but they used to have these little, like in front of a massage parlor, like a happy ending massage parlor. And, and there's like a kiosk. It's like imagine a telephone booth outside of it, right? But it's got no windows. It's all solid, right? And it's got a sign across the top of it. It says, "Pay $1, talk to a naked girl." Okay. And I had never seen one before. And pay $1, talk to a naked girl. And I'm single. I'm a young single man. And I thought, okay, well, yeah, I'll go for that. And so I put $1 in it. And the front window comes down. The front wall comes down, and inside is this gorgeous girl, thin, gorgeous, young, and she's got like a negligee on, and she starts taking her clothes off, and she starts talking, "Hi, honey," and "How are you doing?" And "Why don't you come into the massage parlor? We'll really take care of you," and blah 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 and all kind of hooker speak. And And then before we actually get to any nudity, the wall goes back up.
So this is just to chum the waters. This is just the bait outside of the actual joint itself.
This is a teaser. And
okay.
And, so I put another $1 in and the wall goes back down and she continues to start to strip, and I'm going, and I'm a naive guy. I'm innocent at that point. I'm an innocent young man. I was just 30 years old then. And I'm going, gosh, I said, you're way too pretty. You could be a model. You're way too pretty to be doing this, selling your body and doing this kind of lame ass tease shit. And, why don't you quit? Why don't you be in the tubes? I'll hire you, we need another tubes dancer. Can you dance? And I'm asking all these kind of lame ass questions and she's completely ignoring me.
Yeah, she's just at work.
And she's just going, oh, come on, honey, come on in and I'll take care of you and blah, 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 blah. And before we get to any, and I keep talking, and I guess each time it was like a minute or something before the wall goes back up. And so before we actually get to any nudity at all, the wall goes back up. And fuck. And, and I just went, okay, well, this is a exercise in futility here. She's making a lot more money being a hooker than she's going to be making as a tubes dancer. And and
at some point you're out of dollars,
and I'm out of a couple of dollars already, right? And I thought, okay, well, this is good lyric material at least. So I write the lyric and we don't use it, and I don't use it until we get to the second album with David Foster. And I originally had it, you can talk to a naked girl, and Foz goes, well, you can't say naked. You can't say naked. Why? Because it's not good for radio. You can't say naked. You have to change it. So I changed it. You could talk to a pretty girl.
So this song was kind of sitting around for a while. You had this experience and you wrote about it. Now, do you remember, was the lyric completely written or did you just have a couple lines after this first encounter?
I had a couple of verses, but I didn't have a chorus and I didn't have a title. And this was another song I wrote with Steve Lukather and Foster. We wrote Talk to You Later also, because on the album before, on Completion Backward Principle, toward the end of the album, Dave says, we have a ballad. The record company wants a ballad. Don't want to wait anymore. And we need an AOR kind of rock song. So let's get together. And he put me together with Steve Lukather. And Lukather and Foster and I wrote Talk to You Later in one afternoon in the studio.
Just save it for another guy. Talk to you later. Don't want to hear it again tonight. I'll just see you around. Get out. I'm telling you now.
And, obviously it's a number one rock hit and on the rock charts. And it was number one in 17 countries. They never released it as a single in the United States. It was only on the rock chart. And so when we got to Outside Inside, Foz says, well, let's do it again. The three of us, let's get together and write. And the funny thing is both songs came from Umberto. Umberto was a Chilean guy, and he was the engineer, and he was a brilliant guy. And we were in the studio and we're doing all this kind of tricky stuff, and we kept asking him questions. Well, what does this do, and what does that do? And Umberto would say, "Talk to you later," instead of saying, "Fuck off," I don't ask me, I'm busy. He would say, "Talk to you later, man. Talk to you later." And so that's where I got the title for Talk to You Later. And then for She's a Beauty, Foz used to always say, beauty, eh? I mean, he's Canadian, okay?
Uh-huh.
He's a Canadian guy, and he's a hoser. And he would always say, oh, beauty, eh? Beauty.
Let me stop you there real quick. A couple things. You talked about having the lady be maybe a Tubes dancer. Man, I went back and watched your videos. I'm telling you, if my band had been around in the 70s with your band and we had met, we would have been fast friends. Our whole trip in the early days was kind of vaudeville, shticky type Andy Kaufman humor, and the stuff you guys were pulling. I mean, I know back in the day, you would plant audience members. You'd go out and fight them. People thought it was a real fight. You had the pom-pom girl cheerleader go-go dancers on stage. Backup singers. You had this whole show. Steve Lukather, of course, is the guitarist for Toto, an amazing talent. And David Foster, who you spoke of, the Canadian producer, he's produced everybody from George Harrison to Chicago, Peter Cetera, Boz Scaggs. He co-wrote St. Elmo's Fire with John Parr. So the level of talent here when you got with these guys, and I had no idea that they were behind the song with you, and it makes so much sense because I can hear those elements of Toto and Chicago within the track, and it's so cool.
Yeah, he when we did Completion Backward with David, he had never done a rock album. We were the first rock album he ever did, before Chicago, before any of them. And he had just done Boogie Wonderland with Earth, Wind and Fire, and he was an R&B guy. And he had a little band in Canada called Airplay, and they did mostly R&B kind of stuff, cover songs. And he had just written After the Love Is Gone, which went to number one. It was kind of a whole new direction for us to do kind of a more popular, kind of more poppy songs, more vocal heavy songs, more songs with an R&B kind of groove. Because when we signed with Capitol in 1980, one of the deals was they said, well, you've been with A&M now. You've done 5 albums with A&M. You haven't ever had a hit get past top 40. You haven't really sold a lot of records. You haven't really been a radio kind of presence. And that's what we need. We need you to get on the radio. We need you to sell a lot of records, and we'll give you a deal if you can pull that off. We'll give you a 3-record deal, but each record has an option. At the end of the first record, it's whether we pick up your option or not, it'll be based on performance. And we went, well, okay, because we had no other choices at the time. Nobody wanted to hire us. We were this kind of weird punk band that...
Yeah, where did you fit in 1980? And now the 1981, that record, The Completion Backwards Principle, that was your first one with David, and that was your first one under Capitol. So now you're on the second record, and that option you're talking about, they could have dropped you right then, but They gave you the second record, which was Outside Inside, and here you have this top 10 smash.
Yeah, they did it. And so it's funny, you'd think we were under a lot of pressure, but we didn't notice. We were too busy working on the show and art for art's sake, and coming up with new ideas and a new set, and spending every dollar we had on dancers and sets and props and costumes and choreographers. I mean, we had Kenny Ortega at that point. Kenny Ortega had never worked with anybody but us. And Kenny Ortega is brilliant. I mean, we had the kind of brilliance in talent surrounding us that was just unbelievable. And anyway, like I said, we just, they were going, well, you better have a hit, or no. We just went, no. We want to build a gigantic stage set that's round. Okay. And the manager would go, round? Yeah, we want these big blue round towers, 10 feet wide and 30 feet high. And on top of them, there'll be spotlights. And inside of them, there'll be my quick change room, or the quick change guitar stage. And they went, well, round is not going to fit into the truck. Okay. Round doesn't fit in the truck very well. You're going to have a whole other truck, because round doesn't fit together very well. Well, and we went, okay, fuck, we don't care. We get another truck then.
I got to tell you, I'm laughing with you, not at you, right? I'm giggling because you remind me so much of the early days of my band. I mean, we never even had a top 40 hit, but we were out there. We had this, rabid fan base. We were doing 1,000 to 1,500 seat rooms, and we were always like, "What can we do for the show?" You know, the label would be like, "You got to do this, you got to do that." It was all about the show for us. That's where we were making money. We weren't making money on our records, but we were putting people in buildings and selling T-shirts and merchandise, etc. So I definitely can relate to that. I want to jump into the song right now. The song is 3 minutes and 55 seconds. And, you mentioned the term AOR a little bit ago. And for our listeners that don't know, that stands for Album Oriented Rock. And that was kind of one of the big playlists at Top 40 Radio back then. And you guys definitely fall into that category. But I also feel like there was kind of like that post-punk new wave thing going on with this particular track that's so awesome. It's funny. It sounds only dated to me because I know when the song came out, but it weirdly sounds fresh still today. The whole production aspect of this track. Right off the top, there's a synth right off the top for about 5 seconds. Then there's these 4 synth stabs, almost like claps. The clean guitar comes in playing that main riff in A. That's so cool. And these big overdriven stereo guitars accent on the G and D chords. At around 15 seconds, some sporadic bass and kick and snare come in before we get into verse 1.
Step right up and don't be shy, because you will not believe your eyes. She's right here behind the glass. You're gonna like her.
Step right up and don't be shy, because you will not believe your eyes. She's right there, behind the glass. You're going to like her, because she's got class.
That was her. That was it. To pay $1, talk to a naked girl. Right there.
It's unbelievable that's the the story behind this, because I often wonder on this show when I talk to people, I have preconceived notions of what this was about, and I had no idea. Sometimes songwriters, lyricists have these incredible imaginations, and they can paint these stories, or it's just something they made up. And the fact that this is real is awesome. So, what's going on here lyrically that maybe you haven't touched on yet?
The inspiration kind of for the song also was. There was this movie by Todd Browning back in 1939 called Freaks. Did you ever hear of Freaks?
No, have not.
Freaks was a movie about a sideshow. It was kind of reminiscent of this current movie, Nightmare Alley. It was a sideshow, and there was like the sausage boy and the bearded lady and the chicken woman, which was a chicken with a woman's head, and Slitsy the pinhead. If you see the video, that's why the step right up and don't be shy. He's like a barker at a sideshow carnival. And
okay.
So we wanted to do this. We were all big fans of this movie. And we went to, we had just had a hit with the Completion Backward. And we thought, oh, well, Capitol is going to let us do whatever we want. And we went to them with a storyboard about a video that takes place in a seedy sideshow kind of carnival setting. There was this little funky circus in Southern California. It was called Circus Vargas, and it was like a Ringling Brothers on a 10-cent budget.
Oh man!
And they would tour around Southern California, and we actually contacted. We wanted to set up the video. They would winter in some big lot somewhere here in Southern California. And we wanted to set up all this stuff and do a video in their lot and have like the chicken woman and the sausage boy and all these freaks, as part of the video. And we put the whole thing together, this massive Mike Cotton and Prairie and Kenny Ortega and the video for She's a Beauty. And Capitol said, no way. They said, no, we're not going to let you do that. No, that's not going to go down well. We can't have Sausage Boy at MTV. Okay. No. And so we had to scrap the whole thing and come back with this little, the thing that we had, the kid in a little cart going through this, this kind of like a sideshow ride. And like the mermaid in the big aquarium, they wouldn't even let her be topless. We got this girl with giant breasts. We went, okay, well, we're going to put a mermaid suit on her and have her tits hanging out. And no, can't do that. Sorry, can't do that.
Well, I mean, this is also, labels were trying to get you on MTV too, and that was definitely had to be in the back of their minds.
Yeah, I know. But you got MTV was major censorship. They wouldn't let us, they were the MTV guy was there going, oh no, you can't have, we made this big, at the end, the thing crashes through this giant paper screen, right? And on the paper screen was painted a gigantic breast, right? It's airbrushed that period. They went, no, you can't do that. You can't have a gigantic airbrushed breast that you crash through.
I do like that you're the carnival barker in the video, and that red jacket. I went back and looked at performances. You still bust out that red jacket and that hat sometimes. When you play live, it's super cool. Well, this first verse, the drums and the bass, they come in on verse 1 over that same intro riff, and there's some really interesting space here. And then in verse 1 and verse 2, the first lyric, "Step right up and don't be shy," and there's this what seems like a really long break before you get "because you will not believe your eyes."
Step right up and don't be shy, because you will not believe your eyes. She's right here.
It's really interesting that there wasn't more lyrics or the vocal didn't come in sooner there. Do you recall how that happened? And was that something that was always like that?
Yeah, no, it was always like that. That was the way we wrote it with Luke. We wanted that space in there. We wanted him to be able to have his guitar speak through that kind of part. Well, and that was another song. We did the same thing. We got together early in the day. We wrote the song in 2 hours. It was done, and that was it.
That's incredible. Now, with those lyrics that you had initially, at this point, when you say you wrote it in 2 hours musically, how much of those lyrics were done at that point? Did you finish them up there?
I didn't have all of the chorus, and I had some other lines like naked words that I ended up changing.
Well, we're going to talk about that word right now. We're getting into pre-chorus 1, and I want to talk about that. The whole feel of the song changes here. I wrote in my notes, it's almost like it's another song. The heavy guitars drop out from verse 1. This clean arpeggiated guitar with these keyboard pads come in, and the bass here is singing its own song within this part. The bass playing is just phenomenal. You can look inside another world. You get to talk to a pretty girl. She's everything you dream about. And that second line is that pretty where you had naked, I guess, in there.
You can talk to a pretty girl, right? It used to be talk to a naked girl. She's everything you dream about. Right.
Yeah, that's one of the coolest pre-choruses of how, like I said, it's its own little song there for 10, 12 seconds. And right at the last line, she's everything you dream about, there's these vocal swells that take us into chorus 1. Those vocal swells are the start of these harmonies on this first line of chorus 1, which is just shy of a minute in the song. We're at 57 seconds, chorus 1. But don't fall in love. She's a beauty. She's 1 in a million girls. She's a beauty. Why would I lie? Why would I lie? And on the but don't fall in love, right off the top, I can hear those Chicago-style harmonies. Was there anybody from Chicago singing the backups on that part?
Bill Champlin.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Bill Champlin sang, Bill Champlin and Bobby Kimball and our Bill Spooner sang the background vocals on that.
Okay, and Bobby Kimball, of course, is the vocalist for Toto at the time. So that's incredible.
Right. Yeah, it was Bill Champlin. I mean, at that point, like you said, or like I said, he hadn't produced Chicago yet. This was before the Chicago records and before the Peter Cetera stuff.
Yeah, this is definitely before Gloria Love, but I thought he had already worked with Chicago. So this is kind of you almost gave Chicago some of their harmony sounds with this track.
Yeah. Well, Bill Champlin, we knew Bill Champlin was also from San Francisco. Before he was in Chicago, he was in a band called Clover in San Francisco
with Huey Lewis.
Yeah, and we knew him from then. We knew, and he was in LA, and I don't remember how it all went down, but we knew this guy's a great singer, so we had him come in and sing because they're so hard. The parts are so. I mean, only Bobby Kimball could have sung parts that high. I mean, full voice. Because Vince at that point, I couldn't sing that high, and of course I'm singing lead, and Bill couldn't sing that high, and Vince used to sing most of our high harmony parts, but a lot of it was falsetto. And David didn't want a falsetto part. He wanted a full voice, high screamer part.
And Bobby could hit those.
And Bobby could do it.
What do you want from life? What do you want?
Hey, everybody, we got to take a quick break for a word from our sponsors, but don't go anywhere. We got a lot more with Waybill from the Tubes.
Looking to elevate your music career? DistroKid is a digital music distribution service that enables musicians to distribute their music to online stores and streaming platforms such as Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, Amazon, Tidal, and many more. DistroKid collects earnings and payments, sending them to you, the artist. With DistroKid, artists unlock a world of possibilities. From easily paying collaborators with splits to securing your music with DistroLock, DistroKid covers all bases. Plus, you can promote your releases with Hyperfollow and create eye-catching visuals with a Spotify Canvas generator, all for free. But that's not all. Introducing the DistroKid app, now available on iOS and Android. Artists can manage their releases, view streaming stats, and withdraw earnings, all from the palm of their hand. And for those looking to perfect their sound, check out Mixia. With its simple interface and customizable mastering options, artists can make their music sound polished and professional within minutes. And don't forget about Instant Share, DistroKid's newest feature. Share large files securely with collaborators, producers, and more, ensuring your music streams at the highest quality. Ready to take your music to the next level? Download the DistroKid app and explore their suite of tools today. Plus, listeners can enjoy 30% off their first year by visiting distrokid.com/VIP/DeMakes. That's distrokid.com/VIP/DeMakes.
K-pop Demon Hunters Haja Boys breakfast meal and Huntrix meal have just dropped at McDonald's. They're calling this a battle for the fans. What do you say to that, Rumi?
It's not a battle. So glad the Saja Boys could take breakfast and give our meal the rest of the day.
It is an honor to share.
No, it's our honor.
It is our larger honor.
No, really. Stop.
You can really feel the respect in this battle. Pick a meal to pick a side.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. At participating McDonald's while supplies last.
Where is Daredevil?
I'm right here. Don't miss the return of Marvel Television's Daredevil Born Again.
So what's next?
I feel liberated.
We're gonna take this city back.
Over medicated.
In an all-new season, now streaming only on Disney+.
They're hunting us. It's time we started hunting them.
I can work with that.
This should be tons of fun.
Marvel Television's Daredevil Born Again, now streaming only on Disney+.
It's Deck Days at Lowe's, and the savings are stacked. Right now, pros get 15% off all in-stock composite decking from top brands like Trex, TimberTech, and Decorators. Plus, get a free DeWalt 20-volt max 5-amp-hour battery when you buy a select DeWalt tool. The deck's stacked in your favor with brands pros trust. Our best lineup is here at Lowe's. Valid through 4/22 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
I'm Bruce Martin, host of Pit Pass Indy. Each week, I go behind the scenes of the NTT IndyCar Series and introduce our listeners to the biggest stars of IndyCar, which features the Indianapolis 500 as its cornerstone event. The men and women that compete in IndyCar may be the bravest athletes in all of sport, as danger lurks around every corner. They are able to look danger in the eye without flinching. That is why the NTT IndyCar Series features the best racing on the planet. Join me every week as we talk to the stars of IndyCar, including the legends of the Indianapolis 500 on Pit Pass Indy from Evergreen Podcast.
And now, back to the show.
Well, talking about that post-punk new wave type thing here in the chorus, when you say "Don't Fall in Love," there's this synth whip sound that's panned off to the right. And there's also this new synth sound that's layered underneath. It's almost, you have to really listen for it, but it's very 80, I put in my notes, very 80s video game sounding. It's very of the times, but man, without that in there, it just wouldn't be the same song.
Yeah, that's Mike Cotton. Mike Cotton was not really a musician. And we had the band, when we put the band together to begin with, he said, well, I want to be in the band. And we said, well, what can you play? And we said, well, he said, well, I can't really play anything. And we went, well, you got to be able to play something. He goes, well, no, wait, I'm going to make wacky sounds. Okay. And we went, oh, okay, yeah, you can make wacky sounds. So he went out and got this synth, early synth. It was called an ARP 2600.
Yeah, wow.
It was this big wall of wires and XLR holes and sliding, and he could make all these. And so he figured out how to make all these sounds. And he did, this was way before Korg.
Those things look like old telephone operators' patch bays.
Exactly.
Huge.
Exactly. Great big hunky thing, analog and sliding, faders that you would slide and play with, and then wires everywhere. And we had no idea, how to work one of those things. But he figured it out, and he came up with all this. He goes, well, I can make all these sounds. And we went, okay, great, then you're in the band.
I was going to say, I'm so glad you gave him his chance, because I can't imagine this song without those sounds. Again, this is a slice of album-oriented rock. It's a rock tune, but it's got these elements of, again, I'm saying post-punk new wave with the synths here. Am I also hearing some bongos or maybe a woodblock percussion in this chorus?
Could have been Prairie Prince on drums. I don't think Mingo Lewis was in the band by that time. He had branched off and wanted to do his own thing. But that's all Prairie, woodblocks, cowbell.
It's also something that you hear on a lot of Toto records, and where it's mixed in here, it's really perfect. I wrote here, and I got to say this. I can't state this enough. I love where the bass guitar doesn't play in the chorus. Man, those pockets are awesome where the bass isn't, and I feel that they're just crucial to the feel of this part. Do you recall that taking place? Did David Foster say, hey, leave this empty, or was that just the way they were recorded?
I don't really remember, but I think it was all orchestrated by Foster. He had the orchestration of the thing from beginning to end. It wasn't like we played a bunch of shit and then he said, oh no, we'll take that out. No, that's the way he orchestrated it.
Yeah, where those holes are, though, those empty pockets in this chorus or the bass, it is so good. And the bass tone and where the bass sits in the mix is absolutely killer here. The backing harmonies are on the line, but Don't Fall in Love, She's One in a Million, and Why Would I Lie? And those harmonies, again, I hear that Chicago Toto, those harmonies are just so good. We come out of that into an 8-bar reintro with the bass and drums doing this breakdown feel with those accompanying guitars. Then we're immediately into verse 2. You can say anything you like, but you can't touch the merchandise. That's that window coming back up.
Yeah.
She'll give you every penny's worth, but it will cost you $1 first.
$1 talk to a naked girl. That's where it all came from.
I'm picturing you walk around. And for those listeners that haven't been to the Tenderloin, if you ever go down there, be careful. It's an interesting. It was named the Tenderloin. It used to be the meat packing district down there. All a bunch of meat packing factories. I don't know if they're still down there or empty or apartments or whatever now. But interesting area. Pre-chorus too. I love pre-chorus too because the song's building here. You can step outside your little world. Right prior to that, there's these vocal swells that come up there. You can step outside your little world, and then the backing vocal, step outside your world. You can talk to a pretty girl, and there's some vocal swells after that. And she's everything you dream about. And then those vocal swells come back again to take us into chorus number 2. Chorus number 2 is a double chorus, but it's interesting. It's not just a double of the same part. We get the same exact first half like chorus 1. But I did notice something, and these are the days of analog fee, so this wasn't like you're going to be copying, pasting in Pro Tools or computers.
Right.
The whip sound here is different on chorus 2.
I've sung it so many times and listened to it so many times, but I never really, examined it this deep.
I doubt I would pay attention to the whip in my song either, Fee. I'm not judging you. I'm just pointing out that the whip is different here, and I thought that was neat.
Yeah. Mike used to try to, he would come up with all these sounds. Well, what about this? And he would play a sound. And well, what about this? And he would play that. And Foz would just sit there and go, okay. Oh, no, I like that. Do that one.
And again, what people have to remember, when I'm talking analog, this was all going down to tape. So when these synth noises and all this stuff, it had to be in time. He had to hit it right then. It was, you had to know what you were doing. So he may have seemed like a newbie with this big synthesizer he was rolling into the studio, but he obviously knew what he was doing.
Yeah. Oh, I think by that time, he had that ARP 2600 for, it was probably already fallen apart and put back together 10 times by then, because it didn't travel very well. It didn't. If you stuck it in a truck, when he pulled it out at the next gig, something was wrong. Something was broken constantly. It's funny, quick story. When we went out in 79, when we went out with the remote control tour, we bought these 5 TV monitors, big 25-inch box monitors. And we used to have a video guy, TJ McCose, and we had all this video, that we pre-recorded and we would play on the TVs during the set. And we had stuff like pre-recorded where, like, in the middle of, I would be doing Cowboy Fee and Quaalude would come on the video going, "What the fuck, man? Who the fuck is this cowboy? Get him off the stage." And, and I would talk to the video and the video would talk to me. We had all this kind of video interaction stuff going, but we didn't, we bought the 5 TVs, but we didn't spend the money for the elaborate cases to put them in. So you'd stack these 5 TVs in a truck. And when you get to the next gig, well, something was broken. The TV was broken. The plug was broken, this whatever. And by the end of the tour, all of the TVs were broken and they wouldn't play video anymore. And it was all just static. Every TV had just static on it. And the hilarious thing is, the people who reviewed the show went, "Oh, this is so perfect," showing the illegitimacy of TV. They've got static on all their TVs, as if we planned it. as this was on purpose.
All you planned was that you were on a shoestring budget. You couldn't afford cases for these, but it ended up people thinking that it's part of your show, and that is great. This chorus, what I'm saying, the double chorus, I love the back half of it, Fee, because it comes back in with those backing vocals, but don't fall in love, another whip sound. And this next line, it's almost got like kind of an R&B kind of delivery to it, the way you say, because if you do, you find out she don't love you.
Right.
And then we get into the guitar solo. And the back half of this song from this point out is so cool to me because the solo is still over that main riff, the verse riff, with those guitars in the key of A.
Uh-huh.
And when it comes out of that and it goes to what I'm calling the bridge part breakdown that we're going to get to in a moment, that's pretty much a reworking of the pre-chorus, that part where it goes to chord-wise.
Uh-huh.
And then the modulation part happens at the end that takes us to the key of A, which is your verse keys, but you've actually went up because all the other choruses are in G. So you went up a whole step in a key,
right,
but you don't hear the key change. That's what's brilliant about it. I knew it was there. I could hear your voice was higher, but I'm like, how did they get there? And when I got the guitar out and broke it down, what a cool transition. And we'll get to that in a second. The solo's 8 bars. Did Steve Lukather play this guitar solo?
Yes, he did.
I love this solo, Fee, and I'll tell you, this solo, it's more hard rock or mellow than it is a pop solo. It's got a pretty rough edge there. Did David Foster or anybody think it was a little too tough for this song?
No, I think pretty much whatever Luke did, David loved.
Okay.
He could do whatever he wanted.
I love the solo. I wouldn't change a thing about it, but it is pretty raucous for what's going on here. It works perfectly.
I mean, that was a one-take solo. Like you said, it's analog. You couldn't punch in a repair line in the middle of that. That was one take. And the modulation is very David Foster. He did that to a lot of songs that he produced with us. He always used to say, it has to pay off. The song has to pay off. It has to have a big chorus out, a big payoff at the end. You've got to, you got to come. Okay. It's got to pay off. And a lot of times the way that he would get to that was a modulation. A lot of times in a lot of our songs, there's modulations.
Looking back on his discography, they all have it. Gloria Love, Hard to Say I'm Sorry by Chicago, St. Elmo's Fire. They got all those. I can totally hear that now. And it's so good. Yeah. We get into an 8-bar bridge. It's pretty much an instrumental part, except on the third measure of this, you just say one time, step outside your world. The bass notes here in this bridge part, they almost sound like the bass. I'm saying bass notes. The bass part, was that played on keys or foot pedals?
I don't think so.
Okay, it's still the bass there because it almost sounds like maybe it's the bass with something else. It sounds like there's some keyboard foot pedals. It just gets bigger and it has almost like a slightly warbled sound, like it would come from a keyboard there. But it's awesome.
That one line, "Step outside your world," was a line that wasn't originally in the song, that wasn't written by Steve or David or anything, and I was singing the song in the studio. And when that came, it just kind of came to me. I said, step outside your world. I just kind of came up with that on my own and stuck it in the vocal. And Foz went, that's pretty cool. That works. Yeah, let's leave that in.
Right, and it's a little bit of an odd lyric in the sense that it's not the main hook of the song. It's not like you could have said "One in a Million Girls" there, or "She's a Beauty" again, and got that lyric in there. The "Step Outside Your World," do you recall now? Because that is a call and response from pre-chorus 2. You say you can step outside your little world, and the backing vocals, "Step outside your world." So was that an afterthought after you had thought about it for the bridge? Do you recall?
Yeah, well, I don't. recall. No, it just came to me and I sang it and it fit in that part.
But the producer liked it. And at that point, you had a trusting relationship with him. You knew the guy knew what he was doing, and you kept it. That's great. The keyboard's doing another new pattern here. It almost sounds like pan flutes to start, but as it goes on, it gets more 80s video game sounding as the part happens. And then right on the 7th measure, this big drum hit happens, and that chord modulation happens, and now we're in the key of A. Mm-hmm. Okay, we went up a whole step. We're up higher, but the verses were all in A. So again, the way this song's constructed, you just don't hear. It's a genius key change.
Yeah, Foster. That was Foster.
So good, and you're hitting some notes there, buddy. At the end, there's some high notes.
I know, God, I know.
We don't think about that when we're in our 20s, do we?
And we still do the song in the same key.
I know you do. Props to you for that.
I still do it, But I remember at rehearsal the other day, I can't remember what song it was, and I was going, God, this is so fucking high. I can't believe it. And I always used to say in interviews, oh, we never change the key. We never lower the key. And I am so grateful. My voice is really still strong.
You sound awesome. I saw the most recent video I saw you was from 2019, and it was great.
But we're sitting there in the studio, and I can't remember what song we were trying to sing. No, Not Again, I think, was the second song on Outside Inside, No, Not Again. And I'm trying to sing it at practice, and Prairie goes, dude, relax, okay? You don't have to sing that. You were 30 years old then. Let's drop it down a half step, okay? I said, yeah, but I always say that we never change the keys. Yeah, well, don't say that anymore. Okay. Uh-huh. Okay, go ahead. Change it.
I need you to talk to our bass player because that's been his running thing for years. We play in the same key. I'm like, yeah, I know. I can feel it every night. Yeah. It's funny. You don't think about those things as a younger musician. Chorus 3 is another double chorus, same as chorus 2, but there is some cool things I want to point out here before we wrap up. But Don't Fall in Love, the very first lyric with those harmonies on chorus 3, there is a whip followed by a new sound, a ka-ka. The song is still building. The now, Why Would I Lie, at the end of the first half of chorus 3, the melody changes there again. I love what you do there. On the second half here, But Don't Fall in Love, the whip and the caca happen. And as the caca sound is happening, there is a whistle, a human whistle, panned off to the left. Who whistled there?
I don't think that was a real whistle. I think that was more Mike. I don't remember whistling there.
It sounds like a quick whistle happened, kind of panned off to the left.
There was no human whistling, I don't believe. What? It was only 40 years ago.
I know, Fee. You don't remember if there was a whistle there? Jeez. We get to the end here. The song starts to fade. You get 2 more lines, But Don't Fall in Love. She's 1 in a million girl. And then on the very end fade, you hear a Why Would I Lie? It's the last lyric heard here at the very end of the fade out. And the video game keyboard noises almost sound like hip hop record scratching here at the very end. You guys were ahead of your time there. It almost has that scratching sound there as it fades out here, and just such a cool production.
Well, thank you. I mean, that was the song that when we were doing She's a Beauty, I can't remember if we were doing background vocals or some guitar part or something, but that was the song that I met Richard Marx in. Richard had written a song for Lionel Richie, and he came out from Chicago to watch him record it. And while he was there, he said, I really would like to meet David Foster. And Lionel said, well, he's just right down the street at the Lion's Share doing the Tubes right now. And so he set it up for him, for Richard to come by the studio. And he was sitting in the back of the studio when we were recording that. And at the end of the day, he met Foz and he came up to me and he said, I really like your lyrics, man. Would you write a song with me? And I said, who are you? He goes, oh, I'm Richard Marx. I'm just a kid from Chicago. And
this was about 4 years before he hit.
Oh, yeah,
so he was still a kid.
At that point, this was 83. He didn't have a deal. And he was just writing songs to try to place with other people. And he wrote a Kenny Rogers song and he wrote a Lionel Richie song. And he said, would you write a song with me? And I said, yeah, okay. And so we wrote a song. And, here we are 39 years later, we're still best friends. And in fact, I was just out to see him on last Thursday, and we went for a big hike and had lunch, and he played me. He's got a new record coming out. He played me his new record, and I've been writing lyrics with him for, 35 years.
Well, that's so cool. I want to talk about this real quick. So you've released 3 solo albums. Your first one was in 1984 called Read My Lips, followed by 1996's Don't Be Scared by These Hands. And most recently, Fee Waybill Rides Again from 2020. And that's when you worked with Richard Marx. You have produced songs for a number of artists, including Richard. Want to talk a little bit about your summer tour you have coming up starting June 16th in Solana Beach, California at the Belly Up. Killer venue. I love that place. Oh, yeah. And it continues all the way through August 14th, wrapping up in Billings, Montana. I want to thank you for sitting in with us today and breaking down She's a Beauty. It's been a lot of fun, man. Thank you. Man,
that's incredible that you did such a massive background job on all that stuff. I haven't talked about all that stuff for years. That's great. That was really great.
There's lots more Chris DeMakes a podcast after a few words from our sponsors.
Refresh the rooms you love for spring with Pura. Our collection of floral, citrus, and fresh scents brings a light, airy feel to every space, like opening the windows on the first warm day of the season. From soft blooms to bright citrus, each scent is designed to capture the energy of spring and make your home feel renewed, effortless, and alive. Learn more at Pura.com.
Experience a membership that backs your business journey with American Express Business Platinum. When you pay with membership rewards points for all or part of an eligible flight booked with a qualifying airline through Amex Travel, you can get 35% of those points back, up to 1 million points back per calendar year. American Express Business Platinum. There's nothing like it. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum.
This episode is brought to you by CeraVe Hair Care. Scalp is skin. Healthy scalp, beautiful hair. Discover hair care reinvented with dermatologists from the #1 dermatologist recommended skincare brand. With gentle, hydrating, and oil control balancing shampoo and conditioner. Formulated without sulfates or fragrance, CeraVe Hair Care is suitable for sensitive scalps and all hair types, curl patterns, and color-treated hair. Visit CeraVe.com/haircare to learn more. Available online and in-store at retailers nationwide.
This NBA playoffs with FanDuel, you're not just watching the playoffs, you're a part of them.
Steve's got the phone, opens FanDuel, and he's going for threes.
Be a part of the action on FanDuel. All customers get a profit boost every NBA playoff game day. 21 plus and present in select states. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-MY-RESET.
Every act of change begins with a neighbor. When neighbors connect through the Feeding America network, small actions ripple into lasting impact. Feeding America, led by neighbors. Give now to end hunger at feedingamerica.org.
Pepsi Prebiotic Cola in original and cherry vanilla.
That Pepsi taste you love, with no artificial sweeteners and 3 grams of prebiotic fiber. Pepsi Prebiotic Cola. Unbelievably Pepsi.
As we near the end of the show, here's a band you might not know.
Welcome to this week's Band You Might Not Know. If you'd like your band to be considered for Krista Makes a Podcast, all you have to do is submit your best song via MP3 only and bio to bandyoumightnotknow@gmail.com. This week's featured artist is Fernway, an alternative rock band from Buffalo, New York, consisting of brothers RJ DeMarco on vocals and guitar, Tanner DeMarco on drums, along with Brett Robertson on guitar, Alex Dube on the bass, and Jonah West on guitar. Their music can be found on all the streaming platforms. Here's a snippet of their song, Compass Free.
The Wrap with Chris and Chris.
So, Chris, as you did your research on the Tubes and Fee in preparation for this episode, did you start feeling more and more of a camaraderie with this guy before you even met him?
Oh, I get him immediately. I mean, they were out there. You got to think back then too. Your contact with record labels, it was if you got to a payphone or if a record label exec show up to the show. These guys were out on the road. They were out there putting on these crazy productions on a shoestring budget. They, like I said, go back and look at their videos from back then. They had these, these dancers with pom poms. They were out of their dance steps weren't great. Their singing was off. It didn't matter. It was the vaudeville shticky aspect of it that's what I built a career on early on. It was all those fun little elements, and researching him, a very, very interesting band. Went back, that record, the Completion Backwards Principle, the one before this, I went and listened to some tracks on that, and I just, they were right there. I feel like they could have been way more massive than they were.
In my research of this, when I was getting notes together to send you, yes, I did, even to myself, be like, wow, these guys remind me of like Less Than Jake. They're, thinking about their stage show. He said it when you're talking about him. I thought this was really cool, and I totally believe him too, that they didn't feel the pressure of writing the next album. They were thinking about their live show. They were thinking about how to take that to the next level. And you didn't get too much into that Kenny Ortega guy either, but believe me, Google Kenny Ortega and all the stuff that guy worked on. Even I think he's involved in like the High School Musical stuff now. Mm-hmm. I think he's just been such as far as like the visual aspect of music and the production aspect of things go, I think he's a really big name. And the people that came together to create this song between David Foster and Lukather.
Yeah, Steve Lukather from Toto, just those two guys alone. And I didn't know that Bobby Kimball, vocalist for Toto back in the day that sang on all those big hits, Rosanna, Africa, that he did the backing vocals here, and I can totally hear it now. And it's interesting. I thought David had already worked with Chicago at this point, but Chicago came after this. This preceded that, and the fact that you can really hear those Chicago layered harmonies here is really awesome. And to Fee's point earlier, when he was talking about kind of being oblivious to the label, you only feel the pressure of having a hit when you've had a hit. Oh, right. Now we got to follow this up. But they hadn't really had a hit for their first 5 records. They got a new label deal, and the label's saying, hey, we got record options here. We could drop you at any point. But it's like, whatever, I'm worried about my stage show. I'm looking for the next person to do backflips on stage.
That was their thing the whole time, and it really seems like they had a cult following. And Chris, I had this in the notes. I know you couldn't get into the entire backstory of the Tubes because there's a lot of stuff there. It would have been a 2-hour-long episode if you'd have got into the entire backstory. But an important thing to note, and this relates back to the live show of the Tubes, is that about 5 or 6 years prior to She's a Beauty becoming this massive hit, they may have had a chance to have, at least a lot more exposure. Whether that would have led to another song being a massive hit or not, is in question. But they had a chance to play on like the early years of Saturday Night Live and some other like late night shows. But their management at the time didn't want them to go on there and just play one song because they were like, no, the Tubes, we want them to play a bunch of songs in a row because the transitions between the songs are so, impressive, and it's such a big part of the show. And they didn't want to just go play one song on one of these shows. So that ended up not happening. And then I guess it was inevitable that these guys were going to have hits. They had a cult following, and they had surrounded themselves with the right people, the right producer. And I don't know, to me, that's impressive. They stuck to their guns, and one way or another, these guys were going to have a hit.
I think to have, that restraint and that integrity as a band back then is very impressive. The fact that they were able to say, you know what, this doesn't fully represent who we are as a band. We're going to go over here and do this thing, which, again, as you mentioned, it took another 5 or 6 years before She's a Beauty was a thing. But what a cool song. I had mentioned to Fee a couple times that, it's a rock song, but where do you stick these guys in with everything that was happening in the early 80s? They were harder than the Cars. They weren't as new wavy as maybe the Cars, but they weren't as hard rock as some of the other acts that were happening in the early. They kind of had their own space.
They had a punk rock background, and they didn't limit themselves to that sort of style. Seemed like they were open to whatever. This is very much like a pop rock song. But then if you look into their catalog, there's all kinds of styles. I think the production of this song is really cool. This song rocks to me when I hear it.
Yeah, no, it's timeless in that aspect. And let's not forget producer David Foster's his resume. As I mentioned, everyone from George Harrison to Chicago, Peter Cetera, Boz Scaggs. He co-wrote St. Elmo's Fire. This guy, he kind of knew what he was doing. Went on and did all those Chicago records were just massive.
Yeah.
And to go back and listen, I never would have thought, and again, thankful for this podcast. I never would have ever thought, I've heard this song tons of times, but I never would have put the Toto Chicago connection together, and now I can hear it all through the track every time I listen to it. I'm like, oh, there's the Toto part. Ooh, there's the Chicago harmonies. It's great.
Would you have thought that it was a song about a girl in a window at a at a strip club or peep show or whatever that is?
No, not at all. And that's I've never seen a booth like that. I've heard of peep shows, but not outside to lure the customer in. That was
right.
must have been something in the wacky 70s. And the fact that he was just so candid about it, and that's what the story was. There's nothing else. How else can he be but candid with it? And it was a total left turn of where I thought these lyrics. Again, this could have been just somebody writing a story, a lyric that they just came up with, but the fact that it was based on something true is pretty cool.
Yeah, now when you read the lyrics, it seems obvious. Now you can't even hear it some other way now that you know the story. Every line seems to go right along with that.
It certainly does, and I just like the fact that he just seems like, at this point in their career, they were a working band. They were out there. I'm going back to the fact that they already had this fan base. As I mentioned, they were making money selling concert tickets and T-shirts, and if they had a hit, they had a hit. And it happened for them, which is great. And maybe if they tried harder for a hit, it wouldn't have happened.
Well, dude, another thing, keep in mind, all this stuff, the visual aspect, the live show aspect, at what MTV started in what, 81 or 82?
81.
81. Well, that's right around the time they had this hit. This hit's 1982, right?
It came out on April 4th of 83, so yeah.
Oh, 83. Okay, but all this that 1975 on, that's all pre-MTV. And they're already thinking so much about the visual part of it, whereas a lot of artists aren't. They're just thinking about the audio part of it. So that's cool. They were thinking about the whole thing.
Yeah, they were totally ahead of their time in that aspect. And speaking of being totally ahead of your time, Chris, I think that our listeners need to be ahead of their time and get on those 5-star reviews.
Yeah, help us. How can I?
You can't do anything with that because that was the worst setup that we've had so far.
Yeah. that was so confusing. Help us. Yeah, I don't know. Hey, but the point is, leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to podcasts. If you like the podcast, once again, Chris, I'd assume if someone has listened this far into the podcast, they're probably enjoying it. I don't think they're hate listening for this long.
Probably. And if you didn't like that setup, I'll give you a pass this week. You don't have to leave a 5-star review or anything at all because it was a terrible setup. But we'd really appreciate it. And if you haven't already, join our Facebook group. We just hit 4,000 members, Chris. I'm very proud of that.
Right. I mean, I guess once you're 100 plus episodes in, that, we're on easy street now, man. We're just rolling with the episodes. People are joining the Facebook group, leaving us 5-star reviews all over the place. Maybe some people are listening might even join our supporting cast.
That's right.
You can go to ChrisDeMakes.com, and for a few bucks a month, you'll get a bonus episode every week. You can be on Defeat DeMakes. There's lots of reasons to join, but the most important reason is you'll support the podcast that you love. I mean our podcast.
That's right. And if you haven't already, give me a follow on Instagram at LessThanChrisD. Want to thank this week's guest, Fee Waybill, for sitting in with us, and we'll see you next week.